Hey everybody, it's Zach from TennisProDoc.com. Today we're going to be test driving the Adidas Stycon BOA. So the reason I like play testing and trying out different tennis shoes is I'm a foot doctor, so I look at these things a little differently versus just the marketing that they do with these shoes. So I really like to get into the nitty-gritty of, are they durable, are they stable, are they breathable, what foot types are best for this shoe, and am I gonna roll my ankle in them? So let's get into the Adidas Stycon BOA. So what does BOA stand for exactly? BOA is actually BOA, like a boa constrictor. That's what the person who invented these wanted them to be like, a boa constrictor tightening around the shoe. What this technology is a series of steel tines in the places where you should have laces, and then this one mechanical reel that tightens them. Now the advantage of this is these are laced all across the shoe, and then they're tied down with nylon ties on each side. They're kind of like guides, right? And so when you press the button in and then twist, the entire shoe compresses, right? So it's not like shoelaces where you kind of have to pull at certain areas and you can tighten them, but sometimes they get tight in different areas or loose in others, whereas this gives you a uniform tightness throughout the shoe. Now, if you're a snowboarder, you'll recognize this technology because a lot of newer snowboard boots have this as well. So this technology does a few other really important things. One, it negates any need for the tongue of the shoe. So you sit lower in the shoe. It's a little more low profile, which feels nice. It feels like you're getting a more low to the ground feel. You feel the ground better, right? Next is you don't have to worry about breaking shoelaces when you're sliding, right? Especially on a hard court where one slide can break a pair of shoelaces. You don't have to worry about it with this. The main upper of the shoe is all foxing material, so it's gonna be a lot more durable. Now to this shoe specifically, the Stycon. The first thing you will notice about this shoe is it is heavy. It's about 16.5 ounces for a 10.5 size shoe. That is pretty heavy. Next thing you'll notice when you put them on is that they don't feel heavy at all. You get a real low to the ground ride type feel. So when you're in them, they actually don't feel heavy at all. They feel pretty light. The only times that I started feeling the heaviness of the shoe was after I'd been playing for an hour in the humidity and my legs started getting tired, and then I started noticing, oh, my shoes are a little bit heavy. What else I noticed was after I started serving for a while, after about an hour, it was 85, 90 degrees and the humidity was high, I did notice that trying to jump up into my serve, I really had to give it a little more oomph to get the normal kind of jump that I do, that little hop that I get in my serve. Other than that, if you've got strong legs and you're in good condition, these do not feel heavy whatsoever. One of the real underrated aspects of this shoe is its breathability. I never really felt like my foot was getting overheated in this shoe. I never sweat excessively in this shoe. So I really enjoyed that. It was surprising to me because this shoe has 3 layers, right? One is the little compression layer in it. Number 2 is the BOA closure system. And 3 is the outer. So there's a lot to this shoe. That's why it's so heavy, right? But it breathes really well. The outer of the shoe, you can just see it, that it has little air pockets, little air holes in it for it to breathe. Now, the medial side of the shoe has all this caging, right? To prevent, damage with sliding, which is great. The outer of the shoe, the tread, also comes up over the shoe, so you would think that it would really trap heat. They don't. They breathe very well, even better than my other shoes that I have, which are pretty low profile and meant for speed. I think the thing that I like most about these is the stability of them. You don't feel out of control at all, even if you're running down balls left or right. I think the main reason for that, number 1, is the BOA closure. Number 2 is the streamlined design of the shoe, right? So the shoe has to be uniform, all right? Right through here, through the upper, into the forefoot of the shoe, and even in the back, right? You notice there's not a lot of inconsistencies in the shoes. Some shoes undulate a little bit around the forefoot, or on the inside of the foot, or the outside of the foot. Whereas this shoe is very streamlined, uniform, and it's a little wider. Why that is to get the type of closure this shoe has, it has to be uniform. It has to be a little wider so that those tines, those steel tines, can tighten uniformly so one part of the shoe isn't getting tighter than the other. what that does for you on the tennis court is it gives you a really stable, solid feeling. So I never felt like I was gonna roll my ankle. Now, without the BOA closure on the original Adidas Stycon, right, you might have that feeling where you're moving around in your shoe, and they designed it that way on the original Stycon so that you could kind of slide into a shot and your foot would move around in that shoe a little more. Whereas this, with the BOA closure, you're not moving around. I mean, you feel nice, tight, and snug. So the tread on this shoe is a pretty dense herringbone. So I like that dense herringbone because number one, it's pretty stable. Number two, you can use it on clay or hard courts. And it's pretty durable. A wider herringbone that's really good for clay is usually gonna burn out on a hard court pretty quick. But the denser herringbone that this is made from, and some other shoes nowadays are being made from, is really good for durability on hard courts or clay, and it's stable on both surfaces. So this is a high top shoe, so it's gonna give you a little more feedback. I wouldn't put much stock in, well, I sprain my ankles all the time, so I need a high top shoe. That's not really how it works. The high top just gives you a little more feedback to where you are so that you're less likely to sprain. You still could sprain your ankles in any shoe you wear. But I did like the stability of the high top because the heel counter of the shoe, the solid material around the heel counter, does come all the way up, right? So it does give you much more stability in that area. Check out the outer of the shoe in general, kind of what it brings to the table. One, like I said, there is a nice mesh cage right here, this rubber mesh cage to prevent any wear from sliding. The outsole of the shoe comes up over the forefoot. This is my favorite thing about a tennis shoe. The Sole Court Boosts do the same thing. They have a real high outsole that comes up over the forefoot of the shoe, which gives you much more durability. You do have a little bit of reinforcement on the medial side here. This is, I think some of this is just for design, but this is really nice because on the inside of the shoe, you have a layer underneath that has a really nice puffed out, almost like air pocket underneath that goes right around your heel, so that when you sink into the shoe, your heel, your ankle kind of locks into that area, and that's built in right here, and you can kind of see the outer side of it, but on the inside there's also a puffed out area that kind of locks you in. It's like a little airbag in the shoe. It's really neat. Next is on the lateral side of the shoe. This is pretty tough stuff, right? This is pretty hard shell. Now, the outer layer of it, this material, this kind of coat that the shoe wears, is, like I said before, very breathable, but it's pretty durable, right? The heel of the shoe, the heel counter, which is the really stiff part of the heel that's not supposed to move, okay? The really stiff part of the heel comes all the way to your midfoot, right? So that gives you more stability. It also is gonna give you a little more weight, but ultimate stability with this shoe. So if you're looking for a stable shoe, right? If you have a really excessively pronated foot, so if you need orthotics or your foot gets tired because it's flatter, right? This is a good shoe. Number two, if you're like me and you have a higher arch foot and you tend to roll, you tend to have like lateral ankle sprains, this shoe also is really good because of the stability. You'll notice in tennis shoes, people with flat feet and people with high arched feet tend to like the same shoe. That sometimes it doesn't make sense to people, but the one thing that both of those types of players want is stability in the heel and stability in the midfoot. And this shoe has both of that in spades. Now, even though I didn't have any problems with blisters, like I said before on the high top, I would wear high socks with them. These aren't shoes you wear ankle socks with. I think over time, as you start to sweat, this would probably get a little annoying after a while. However, with high socks, I had no problem. The other thing is if you sweat a lot and you wear ankle socks, the sweat is going to drip down your leg and into your shoe. Now, in any shoe that's bad, but in a high top shoe, especially a 3-layer high top shoe, you probably would start feeling like you're walking around or running around in a puddle. So overall, I would say this shoe is fantastic for anybody that's looking for a shoe based on breathability, stability, comfort, right? Maybe not so much speed. If you're a player that really relies on speed for their game, maybe look somewhere else. But if you're looking for a stable shoe, a comfortable shoe, something you're not really gonna roll in, something that really feels good out of the box, this is definitely something you wanna take a look at. Next is, I have a wider foot, and this did not require much break-in for me, and even with the BOA closure, getting it pretty tight, I never felt like it was squishing my forefoot together, so I really enjoyed that. I thought that the comfort for a wider foot was very good. Now it does fit medium to wide, so unless you have an excessively very narrow, very narrow foot, and if you do, you know, you'll really have to crank the BOA closure on this. You might move around in this too, so maybe if you're looking for a high top, go to the Amplifeel or try something else. But anywhere from a medium all the way up to a very wide foot, this will get you going. I think the BOA closure, it should be standard on tennis shoes. I really think a lot more shoes need to have this as an option. They're super easy to tie. You're never gonna have worry about breaking shoelaces, which I do. And you just get a uniform snugness in the shoe. And that's something I think a lot of people don't get. I know a lot of people like to, you know, tie their laces in a certain way. But for me, the fact that I can just turn this dial and really crank in that tightness and feel nice and snug in the shoe gives me a lot more confidence to go laterally on the court. Another shoe in this family is the Wilson Amplifeel. It's also a high top shoe. It relies on an elastic closure system around the ankle, and some people really like that for feel. So if you're not really into the Adidas version, Wilson does make one, and it is a little bit lighter of a shoe as well. It doesn't, I don't think, have the stability in the heel counter that this does, but it does have the high top feel with a lighter shoe. All right, everybody, this was my review of the Adidas Stycon BOA and playtest of the BOA. Hope you all enjoyed it. If there is any shoe you would like me to take a look at from the perspective of a player or a foot doctor, leave it in the comments below. I'll see you later.